Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Tuesday. It's May 20th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And you can see on our daily chart, we did make a new high, but we backed off of that and closed lower today. We're still inside that trend line. You can see that we're working still. That trend line looks like it's still active. We're still working it. So we'll see what tomorrow brings. My guess is we'll push higher tomorrow, but we'll have to wait till tomorrow to find out for sure. But that's what looks like to me at this point. So anyway, it's just a kind of a tight range day for the most part. Let's flip over there and we can take a look at that chart, 2000 tick chart. And here it is, and you can see that we spent most of the day in this very tight range. Um, Notice how we were coming up short here. That's a good indication that we're probably at some point going to break, at least fail on a breakout. And you can see that's what happened. And we still couldn't get back to the upper side, and that's when it finally sold off. And what you'd want to look for is a possible um, measured move here. Oops, wrong one. There's a couple of different ways you can measure it. Measure from here and then here. Or measure it from here to here. And then from where we turn down. And you can see that's basically a perfect measured move there. So you look for it both ways. It could end up working out either way. But that's what we got. We got a leg. We basically had a leg down, a correction, and then moved to a new low here, and then a leg down. This turned down, and once we broke out, it started another channel down here. It's basically a spike and channel down. After this channel here, it already played out. So, but we did get that measured move. Looks like almost to the tick, and then we bounced from there, and we closed back close to the lows of the range. And early on, your lows would have been a little higher here. That's why this line is on here. But we had real consistent support for the most part off the lows. It's the highs where you had the problem. You can see we're going across here. Then we went higher. Then we came back. You know, they're not at the same place. And so that makes it harder to trade. And so you're looking for the consistent support or resistance. And um, otherwise, it's much harder to trade. But let's zoom in here. We'll go through the trades and we'll wrap this day up. 7 o'clock came right in this little sideways stuff. I don't see anything you can trade there. It looked like we were going to get a setup here to maybe trade back inside the range, but this never broke lower, and you can't really trade the big bullish bar. So no trade there. You had to just sit and kind of be patient. Notice you got a first entry there, and then we came back, and you had this lower high. It never broke there. You actually ended up making another higher high, and that neither one of those signal bars qualify. Actually, ends up being your signal bar. It doesn't qualify. So still no trade. Then you had a hidden second entry there, and maybe even a triple top, but no signal bar. We did bounce down here, and we had the break and a new low in place. I didn't mark that trade, but you could argue for that to be green because we bounced across there multiple times. And you can see there's more than enough to get out right there. So I think you can take that trade. You had the break and new low as well on this possible channel here. And really what this was, in my opinion, was a retest of the lows from this original down channel. We never made a new low yet here, so this was the retest for that. But you could draw this channel on here. Another trader asked me about this, and he actually was looking at something way out here, but it just doesn't fit. Once you start to see prices above and below the EMA like that, that's sideways. Here, yeah, it goes sideways a little bit here, and then it's back down again. But from here on, it's sideways, and you can clearly see prices are above and below. That's just a range, and you got to trade the range then. I mean, you can find the short-term micro trend line or trend channels, but for the most part, you're trading a range here. So you could take that trade, and then it breaks lower, And this is a failed breakout, so maybe you take that one, that being that far away from the EMA, but you're better off to wait on the higher low, and you just don't get that. It runs up here, and notice how it makes a triple test across here. And gives you a big bearish bar, and it actually breaks higher and turns down. You could, since that's mostly bullish, let me zoom in a little bit. You could trade that on the engulfing bar there, and I think you're only going to be able to count that as a first entry though. But it's a triple test, and that's why I like it. I don't see anything else. You might say, okay, well, we got a lower high here, which, yeah, if you had a better signal bar, maybe you take that as a lower high, but it's just not good enough signal bar. Then we bounce here. You need to wait on a higher low, and it's too bearish, and you just don't get anything. But you start working your way up, and notice you actually get a close outside and a couple of legs up, and then a lower high right here. I think that signal bar is close, but it qualifies, so I think you can go short there. And then it turns back. You get the close outside, it turns back down. You get two legs down, and you actually make a low here, and you could have considered that one. I mean, it's a really big bar. I don't know that you would want to trade it even if you could. Well, I'd say it's a really big bar. It's 20 ticks, but for today, that's a pretty big bar. But I think you could argue we've bounced there multiple times, but it doesn't break above it here. So, but it comes back, makes a higher low with a good signal bar. I like going long there. And that one takes off. Close outside, move to a new high, and you just don't get a signal bar up here. You lower high, no good. It comes down and it bounces again. Now we've bounced here at least 3 times. We got a good signal bar, and I think you can go way away from the MA. I think you can go long right there. If you get a higher low, you could take it, but you don't get one. And then you get a close outside, new high. We're working down. We didn't quite make a new high. We're working lower again, but I don't see anything you could go short or long there. Now, somebody will probably ask me, isn't there a second entry here? Yeah, but we've already got a close a new high here. And we're working down, so we're looking for a new low. So I don't think I would. That all just looks sideways and choppy. I just wouldn't go long or short there. I don't think you can do either one. So you might argue there's a triple test there, but I still don't think you want to take that. I'm not even sure if there's enough room to. See, there's just not enough room to scalp out there. You've worked below the EMA, and we've tested it 3 times there. So I would just sit tight. We run down here and we bounce right off the lows again. That's where you want to get long. You don't want to be getting long and short in the middle unless you're playing the trend, and you're not doing that here. So this is where you'd want to get long. Another nice trade here. There is a higher low. It looks a little congested to me. You got at least 2 bars with tiny or no bodies there. So I mean, you could argue for that to. I mean, I think you've moved a little far for that to be a higher low anyway, so I don't think you want to go long there. Now, you might argue there's a second entry here, but there's not really a convincing close outside. Then you get the next bar. It makes an equal high. I think you need to wait on a lower high before you could go short here, and you might still be working up. I mean, the problem is you're not making any consistent highs, so it's hard to go short off the highs without a really good setup, and you just don't have anything there. Even on the lower high, the signal bar doesn't qualify. But it runs down here, and you get a failed breakout. Maybe you take that first one, but you're always better off to wait on the higher low, and that comes here, and there's no setup there to take. You get another test here, but the signal bar is no good, and you just don't get a chance to really go long unless you were a little aggressive and took that one. And it runs up, and then we're just chopping sideways. Nothing you can do there. And you do get a close outside, a couple of swings to a new high. Again, maybe you take that turn down right there, but you're better off to wait on the lower high, which comes here. And this time we do get a setup. I like going short there. Then we're just working sideways. You play this. This confirms the trend line, so it's a turn down off the trend line, but you're really playing the little tight range there, and you're just getting short at the high. And that one breaks on down, and where does it bounce? Right where we've kind of been bouncing, but you don't get a setup. But notice you get a trend channel working up, close outside, move to a new high, and you get a second entry short right there on a break below that. You didn't get a lower high or anything, but I think you're fine because it closes outside and then makes that new high. And it also turns down right off of, you could almost argue that it turned down off that resistance again. And we should have already cleaned everything out down here, so you're okay. You notice it did still bounce there, but I think you're okay going short there. We should go back down and test these lows and maybe even make a new low. And it does, it just kind of keeps going. Then it bounces here, turns down, no setup, bounces again. Now this time you do get a first entry, second entry, but there's no close outside that channel. And we've already had an overshoot here, it looks like, so it's hard to know if that's a new channel or not. So I think you have to sit tight on that one, see if you get a lower high, or if something else sets up, and then eventually you're working sideways and you do confirm that channel right here. I like going short right there. You got enough room to get out. It's also, if you notice that low, it's a first entry, second entry. It's still a little two-legged pullback to the EMA and trend line, but it looks sideways, so I think you play it more as the range than you would a couple of legs back to the EMA. Technically, it's a first entry, second entry, third entry, but it still looks like two legs back to the EMA. And it eventually breaks out, forms a new low there. I didn't mark this high or low, but you could take that. I think you could, I mean, if you want to be super aggressive, you take your measured move there, but you might even take the high or low there. I marked them both green because this is a pretty good downtrend right here. And even though there's a break in new low, we already had a break in new low here. You could get a third channel down or something. So just, I mean, we are a good ways away from the EMA. So if you're going to take one, this higher low would be the one if you have room to get out before you get back to the EMA. And it easily surpasses that and takes off. You might argue, hey, there's a reversal pattern here too, but I don't like that congestion sideways stuff there. And you see it doesn't go far before it pulls back. And it actually just kind of folds over into another channel here, and you get a break, move to a new high, and all that's after 230. But we end up pushing higher still yet. So not the greatest trading day, but you know, that's a really tight range we've got going on here. And most of your consistency's at the lows and not at the highs. So this was a little harder to trade. Especially when it looks like we're going to break lower here. So you got to be careful going long down here. And but I think you have to take these that turn up. You can clearly see they look like rejection. As soon as you touch the line, prices kind of reject off of it. We were getting some rejection. So I like those trades. So there it is. Mostly sideways today. We did have a late sell-off here and recovered some of it, but there just wasn't much to trade on that either. So we left a gap on the chart. We may feel that tomorrow. Who knows? We'll see what happens. But there's one more high-level look at it. It's basically two legs down with the range in the middle. That's the way I would describe this day, is two legs down with a range in the middle. But anyway, there it is. I'm not going to beat around the bush today. Reminder that I'll be out Thursday and probably Friday as well. I'm assuming that I won't have any issues Wednesday. I should be able to have a regular day on Wednesday, and if something changes, I'll let you know. But I will be out all day Thursday and probably all day Friday. So we'll just have to see how Friday goes. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.